What's up, universe? It's your boy Zach Boy back at it again with another video on using veganism as a vessel for physical and spiritual health. Today I want to talk about two substances, specifically Calea Zachatechichi and apples. So apple products, apple cider, apple juice, applesauce. And these two substances are things that you can use to essentially enhance your dreams. I'm going to be talking a little bit about how that works and the effects, and this mostly comes from my personal experience. So the first one, Calea Zachatechichi, also known as dream herb, is a tea leaf, which is essentially like from a shrub from somewhere in Africa. I don't really know. But what it's basically going to do is enhance your dreams. So a lot of people will say that they are able to have more psychedelic dreams, a lot more intense, a lot more physically real. And I personally have also used this tea numerous times, probably upwards of 50 times, and I think it works for sure. I noticed that my dream recall is expanded. The physicality of the dream is a lot more real. The dream is intensely more vivid. So the reason that this happens, science is not really completely sure how this happens. I mean, there's very limited understanding on dreams in general. So the understanding on what Calea Zachatechichi is actually doing within your brain is not quite certain. My opinion, I guess, my take, and this is completely based on just other knowledge that I have about the body in general, is that when you sleep, you tend to develop a lot more buildups of kind of mucousy substances, so kind of cholesterol within your body, and this is probably developing a lot in your brain. So the likelihood is what Calea Zachatechichi is doing is reducing the swelling, reducing these buildups of substances within your brain, and just allowing more free flow of neuron connections. And yeah. So how you can ingest it? Most people drink it in tea. It can also be smoked. It can also be like inhaled or just straight up eaten on its own, which is gross. I have both smoked it and drink it in tea. I've only smoked it twice, I think, and it was also mixed with something else, which is a dream inhibitor, so that completely didn't work at all. But I've noticed that my dreams do in fact seem a lot more vivid. Why this is happening, I speculate that this is mostly happening because of dream recall. So I'm probably kind of waking up a little bit more in between my REM sleep, so waking up more throughout the evening, which sounds like it would lead to a lot less of a restful sleep, but that's not really the case. I tend to feel very well rested when I wake up. So to kind of wrap it all up, it's probably because your dream recall is a lot more effective. Who knows really if the dream itself is more realistic or more vivid, but when you're in dreams, they do tend to feel very real. However, when we wake up, we are not having as much dream recall, therefore the dream is kind of fuzzy when you wake up, and you will pretty much forget about it immediately if you don't write it down or deliberately try to recall the dream. Calea Zachatechichi can also be used for numerous other physical ailments. So it's known to be used for headaches, nausea, diarrhea, inflammation in other parts of the body. Oftentimes it's kind of created into a balm, and you can rub it on certain parts of your body to decrease swelling. I've never tried any of this. This is simply information that I've read from the internet, so who knows if it's true. Just kidding, I know it's true. I read it from WebMd. But yeah, so that's a good summary of the uses of Calea Zachatechichi or dream herb. The other substance is apples. So when I was younger, I was very interested in kind of creating lucid dreams to manifest more lucid dreams when I was asleep. And a lot of the time between Calea Zachatechichi and apples, well, let me just give you some backstory. So I used Calea Zachatechichi quite a lot, probably between the age of 19 and 20. So for about 2 years, I would use Calea Zachatechichi pretty often. Come here. Come here. Come here. It's my titty tat. And she's standing on my laptop. Anyway, so I would use Calea Zachatechichi maybe on a weekly basis for about 2 years. And I would pretty much always drink it in tea. Like I said, there were 2 occasions in which I smoked it, but those were basically irrelevant based on other circumstances. This year, I have tried using apples on, every once in a while. And I do notice that there is an intense difference between the nights that I don't specifically consume apples before bed and the nights that I do. And same kind of reason as Calea Zachatechichi, I suspect that apples are, the acidity within the apples is decreasing buildups of cholesterol or other mucus-like substances, whatever they might be, within my brain, within my circulatory system, therefore allowing a better flow of blood and basically just chi throughout my body, and allowing more neural connections and less inhibitedness within my brain. So let me give you an example of a dream in which I had Calea Zachatechichi, and a dream in which I had consumed apples. So for the Calea Zachatechichi dream, I'm going to give you an example of when I was in Ohio one time with my family. We were on vacation. Why were we on vacation in Ohio? Who knows? Just kidding. A lot of my family lives there. But I had a cup of Calea Zachatechichi before bed, hot tea, and what I noticed from right off the bat was that I never really noticed myself falling asleep. I noticed myself lying down and, preparing myself to fall asleep. But I essentially felt like I was closing my eyes, and almost in an Alice in Wonderland-esque scenario, I fell asleep and basically immediately woke up in another reality. So I remember waking up, there was a person there who was like, "Hey, wake up, we gotta go, we gotta get ready to go." I don't really remember exactly who the person was. But, so I get up and I walk out of this bedroom that was essentially the whole house. It was a very tiny house with one room, and I was in a bed in that room. We walk out onto a street, and it's a Renaissance-like fairy tale village. So we're walking around, sorry, that was my cat. We're walking around, and we're looking at all these different little shops and other little buildings, and I'm looking in the windows and I'm seeing these people in kind of tailor shops and bakeries, and I specifically remember a very ornate fountain store. And I am able to move very freely. I'm not physically restricted to just walking. I'm able to kind of float around. And I am flying, but it's not like Superman flying. It's just kind of floating around up to the 2nd story, 3rd story, back down, looking at all these shops. And I noticed that it's very physically real. A lot of the time in dreams, when you look at your hands, or you look at other parts of your body, maybe your hands are on fire. A lot of the time for me, they're on fire. Or they're kind of twisting around, like my fingers are they have the mind of their own, and like they're just kind of moving around abstractly, and it's very weird. Not in this dream. I mean, my hands were very much my hands, my arms were very much my arms, my body was very much my body, and I could feel my body. And I wasn't deliberately trying to feel my body, but it was not out of my control. It was my body, and it felt very real. So that's probably my number one point about Calea Zachatechichi, is physically it is very realistic feeling. This is for me personally. As you know, with all substances, the feelings for each person can vary very wildly, and I only know one other person who has consumed Calea Zachatechichi, and they also said that it is a very physical experience. So the next dream was the dream that I had after I had eaten an apple. Literally, I had eaten an apple and then went to sleep, and this was a nap. So maybe it was a little more real because it was a shorter sleep period, and I had more time to recall it afterwards. It was not a full night's sleep. There were not multiple dreams that happened. It was pretty much one dream in a short period of time, probably about an hour. So what happened was, I was with my friends, and we walk into a movie theater. We sit down in the movie theater and start watching this movie. The dream immediately changes parallels, and we're part of the movie. As you know, it's really hard to be kind of an observer in a dream. Maybe that's just for me, but I was in the movie, and what's happening is I'm sitting behind the glass of an interrogation room, watching an interrogation. Now, it's not an interrogation. What's happening is the government is essentially testing a substance on these people. The substance is a mix of anthrax and some other psychedelic substance. I don't know exactly what it was, but this is after I had taken a class on terrorism and I had learned about the anthrax attacks that happened at Fort Meade in Frederick, Maryland. Is it Fort Meade or Fort Detrick? I think it's Fort Detrick in Frederick, Maryland. And so essentially there's a lab scientist taking notes on a clipboard. They're watching this person in a chair. They give them the substance. I'm pretty sure they inject the substance into them. And then the person kind of starts acting kind of irritable and a little bit, uncomfortable. Kind of like when someone's dying. I mean, if you've ever seen someone right before they die, it's very similar to that. Like, they're very uncomfortable. They can feel their body losing control, and they're kind of trying to hold on. So the person is like kind of uncomfortable. They stand up, and they said one or two words in a mildly aggressive tone. They sat back down, and then their head hit the glass, and they died. And I was like, holy shit, that person just died. And I was terrified. The dream immediately switches to another person. Same situation. They're sitting in a chair. There's a scientist with a clipboard. They inject the substance into this person. Same exact thing happens. The person becomes irritable. They stand up, say a couple words, and then they sit back down, and then they die. Next situation. I am in the position of the scientist. I'm not with a clipboard. I don't have a lab coat on. I don't remember exactly what I was wearing, but it was a very much observative perspective. And I'm looking at this person. It's a black guy. And he's sitting in the chair. There's a ton of people around him, very acutely watching him. He is injected with the substance. All these people are watching him, and all of a sudden, the room around us becomes this psychedelic geometric situation. It's like a mandala kind of swirling around with all of these lines and geometric patterns and colors all over the place. He's the same, except his eyes have the exact same thing happening as the room. And I'm watching him, and he begins to freak out. He's like screaming, he's losing his mind, essentially. And I'm petrified, and everybody else is very acute watching him. But I'm terrified, and this man is losing his life, it seems like. And so the situation changes, and the man is sitting in a room that is completely white. And the only other person in the room is me and a woman. And she doesn't seem to be interacting with him, but I'm watching him, and he's kind of sitting on the floor. There's blood coming out of his eyes and out of his nose. And he is dying. I mean, he's basically dead. His eyes are so bloodshot red that it's literally like blood vessels have burst within his eyes. The woman, well, I turn to the woman and I say, I'm like, he needs the antidote. And she's like, well, we can't give him the antidote. And I'm like, okay, you're gonna have to give me the antidote. And so she takes this kind of syringe gun and injects me right up under my chin. And I just felt this very intense feeling of like a headache, but with a lot of liquid within my head and my brain. And I walk back to this guy, and I essentially spit into his mouth. And he heals. He stops bleeding, his eyes turn back to normal, and he kind of collapses into my arms, and he's breathing heavily, and I'm like, oh, thank God, I just saved your life. That was a weird-ass dream. And a lot of dreams are weird, but this dream stuck out to me specifically because it was very vivid. Now, the difference that I noticed between Calea Zachatechichi and apples in general is that apples tend to give me intensely psychedelic, strange dreams, whereas Calea Zachatechichi tends to give me very physical dreams. They're not super out of the ordinary. I mean, yes, flying is kind of out of the ordinary, but nothing very emotionally intense was happening. Maybe this is because of my emotional state in general, but I tend to notice that when I consume Apple products, it is a very emotionally intense experience. It's not as physical. I don't notice my hands and my body as much, but the visuals are off the chain. I mean, it's always very intense. So that is my review of apples versus Calea Zachatechichi. If you know of any other dream-inducing substances, I would be happy to learn more about it and experience it and try it for myself. I'm a person that is very attuned to my dreams. I don't consume any substances that are dream inhibitors. So if you have an interest in learning more about something, I'd be happy to look into it, to do some research on it, and to practice it myself, and I will let you know what I think. Alright, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and I will talk to y'all later.